Hello everyone and welcome to my podcast. Tune in to hear me speak on some very hot topics relating to love, life, relationships, situationships and all that jazz. Sit back, grab a tea or coffee, put your phone down and enjoy the show. Hi everyone and welcome to episode 2 of the More Life Lounge. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I hope wherever you are in the world you're safe, you're well, all that good stuff. You're really using this time wisely, whether you're using it to focus purely on your sort of career progression or any kind of financial progression, or you're using it just to kick back and relax. Just use this time to sort of focus on number one, which is you, because we're never going to get the opportunity again. And we will be kicking ourselves, in the next sort of 12 months. We look back and say, look, we had over 2 months free and we still didn't do anything. So please, guys, just use this time wisely. Anywho, moving on. If you follow me on Instagram, you might be aware, but if you've listened to episode 1, you will be aware that today's topic is going to be based around self-love. I think it's a really, really good concept to start with because I feel like it sets a bit of a tone around what to expect from the podcast. And anybody that's tuning in is going to get a bit of a feel of who I am and some of my beliefs and some of my personal experiences, but also understand whether the podcast itself is going to really work for them, because I know we all have different reasons as to why we sit and listen to a podcast, and my views and what I intend to focus on might go against what you're looking for, or it might just not be what you're looking to sit down and listen to. So I think it's a great opportunity for you guys to get a feel about me and all that stuff. But I feel like self-love itself, I feel like the actual concept has been misused, and to a degree, particularly within the media, it's created a bit of a stigma around self-love. There's been a massive stigma created around it. It's been overused, and I feel as though a lot of people, when you say self-love, they assume you're referring to self-care, so external self-care. So whether that's getting your hair done, getting your nails done, makeup on, buying nice clothes, going on nice holidays, going to spas, all that stuff. Do not get me wrong, that is a very big part of self-love, but I feel as though that shouldn't dominate people's perspective of what self-love actually is, because I suppose there's categories, and I see it as there's different categories to self-love, right? And if you just focus purely on the exterior and don't actually start working on you as a person, you kind of can forget yourself in that process, even if your intention is to continue to love yourself and all that sort of stuff. So I feel as though today's topic is going to go a little bit away from the whole ideal of external, you've got to look good. I'm going to touch on it, and I suppose a lot of the things I do discuss sort of work hand in hand with it. However, I want to try and dig a little bit deeper, take it away from that surface layer and explore it, in a little bit more depth, and I hope you guys enjoy. What I'm looking to do is create a bit of an introduction into me whilst I sort of speak to you guys. So I will speak on my own personal experiences, but I also do want to create a platform where, whether it's now or whether it's when you go home or you're lying in bed or you're cooking or whatever it is you do, walking the dog, whatever you do, I just want to get you guys sort of reflecting on what we've spoken about or what I've spoken about today. Not only that, I want to get you guys to be a little bit more self-critical. Now, when I say self-critical, I don't want you to start picking holes in everything about you, because it goes against the whole idea of self-love. But I also want you to be quite self-critical, because sometimes it's quite easy. If somebody says to you now, do you love yourself? A lot of people instinctively may respond with, yeah, of course I do. However, when you start to look at not only sort of emotions and insecurities and stuff like that, but how you sort of interact with people, the type of people you allow into your life, the sort of behaviour you tolerate, energy you put out there, you might then start to question whether that actually demonstrates a self-loving attitude, if that makes sense. It's about really trying to recognise some of the areas where you may well fall short. You may need to work on. There's nothing wrong with admitting and owning up to your own weaknesses and saying, look, this is something that I need to work on because I know it's not good for me. It's quite difficult to do because it's so easy to pump up the areas in your life that you know you're doing quite well on, I mean, I always like to use the analogy of go to the gym, you're strong on your upper body and you neglect your legs, right? You've seen it. If you go to the gym, you've seen it in the guys that go and work on their top body and then their legs are like tiny and you're like, what the hell are you playing at? But it's so easy. I mean, I train and I enjoy lower body workouts like every girl out there, but then I might neglect other areas, which then can result in other areas malfunctioning and irregularities in other areas. So I always say it's so easy to just keep pumping, but it's a lot more difficult to really face up to you as a person, for you to really sit down and assess yourself quite critically. And I feel as though it's quite a good skill to have, and it's something that I've had to work on quite extensively, if I'm honest, because sometimes you like to cover things and mask things and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel as though it's really good to acknowledge certain things in your behaviour and then work to basically overcome that. So that's what I really want you guys to do, and I know it's going to be difficult because, like I said, no one wants to face up to it, but I would really love if at least one person goes away and says, you know what, that's something about me that I need to work on. And in the long run, it's only going to work in your favour, because how many times are we all going to continue to make the same decisions and then pass the blame on somebody else? Don't get me wrong, influencing factors to why you respond and why you react to certain situations the way you do. Nevertheless, ultimately, deep down in your heart, when you've done something where you think, you know what, if I didn't respond in that way, that situation may not have escalated to the point that it did. Like, we've all been in situations like where you may have responded in a certain way and then been like, why did I do that? So once sort of heightened emotions have kind of been brought down, it's likely to act off of, impulse and things like that. So eventually when you get to that point, you will always say, do you know what, I shouldn't have responded in that way, and I really wish that if I'd done it again, I would have responded in this way. So I think it's just having the ability to not only reflect on yourself once a situation's happened, but in that moment, being very self-reflective and saying, do you know what? Okay, my emotions might be high at this time and I may feel in a particular way, but I am not going to allow that to impact the way I respond and ultimately affect me in the long run, because all that happens is you're affecting yourself. Like, whatever you do and whatever you say to somebody else in that split second, it may hurt them, but at the same time, in the long run, how you then feel and how your emotions are going to be affected by that. Like, I hope this is making sense, but have you ever been in a situation where, I'll have to use an example of when I drive, right? I've got the worst road rage. It's something I'm working on because I know it's not good for my soul. But have you ever been in a situation where you've been in a really, really good mood and you get in the car and then somebody throws you off and you end up responding in a negative way, which then impacts your mood moving forward, and then something else might crop up that is negative. And then your day might then, if you don't acknowledge it and start to say, you know what, no, I'm not allowing that energy to suck me dry. If you don't acknowledge that, you could go on a whole day just with a negative mentality. And I think it's so easy to happen to that one situation, that one scenario that you respond to, then could potentially impact your whole day, your whole week. You sort of put out there, the more you get back. Likewise, the more positive energy you put out there, the more you get back. So it's just being mindful of that, and it's so difficult to do. And I see it in particularly the younger generation where they're not really thinking about the consequences of their actions. They're thinking in impulse. They're thinking, like, we've all been there when you're about 14, 15. You look at things from a very sort of blurred perspective. You assume this is your life, and life doesn't go beyond this particular point that you're in. You sort of forget that, you don't forget, you just don't understand that life goes on and life changes, and sometimes the people you're around and things of that sort is going to change. And it's unfortunate. I mean, the generation now are a lot different to how I was when I was younger, because they're obviously a lot smarter and a lot more clued on to life, really. But I feel as though it's still something you see, and it's quite prominent, particularly when dealing with like knife crime and the gang culture. You see people responding in a certain way to situations, and you say, do you know what? If you'd only sat back in that split second and thought, no, this ain't for me, this is not going to work for me, the implications that would have then had on the outcome, likewise, would have had on the next 10 to 15 years of your life. And I know it sounds extreme, but always say this to people. It's something I like to sort of press on when I'm speaking with my little sister is, you can make decisions in life, right? So you can open a door, again, I love my analogies, but you can open the door, and based on the path that you take when you open that door, based on that door that you open, you will never return back through that door the same person again. I'm just going to sort of say that again so it sort of resonates, because sometimes people say stuff that doesn't quite sit. But you can open the door, and based on that door that you're opening, you'll never be able to return through that door the same way again. Okay, so you can make decisions in life that you feel in that moment is a split second choice. Instinct is, I'm doing it now because now it feels like the right time. But you don't actually know that sometimes that decision that you make could impact your whole life. And it's just something that we all need to think about. It's like, I know I touched on the situation with the guy. He's sort of UK based, he was based in Birmingham, and unfortunately he sadly was murdered. It was recorded on someone's phone, it then circulated via social media and all that sort of stuff, and it was horrendous. However, do you really think that scenario, so whether we look from the perspective of the boy that unfortunately lost his life, or if we look from the perspective of the guy that actually took the guy's life, do you think that they left their house that day? They may well have. People may say, well, do you know what, when you live that life, you may well live a life where you leave your house and expect to be murdered. But do you feel as though, in every scenario, you could leave your house and actually know that at the end of that day, you could either be dead, or you could end up inflicting some kind of trauma on somebody else's life, which then puts you in a situation where you could be facing up to 20 years to life, or whatever it is in the UK. You don't. You make decisions. Some people carry a gun, some people carry, a shank or a knife, or whatever you want to call it, whatever term you want to refer to, but carry that, and in their head they're probably thinking, if I need to use it, yeah, I'll use it, or I might pull it out to scare somebody, but not really have the intention of using it. But when you're in a situation where emotions are running high, you don't know how people are going to respond, and just the fact that you've got that there is only going to make you make maybe a very rash decision or very irrational decision in that moment. So yeah, and I've sort of deflected slightly away from what I was talking about, but I just want you to understand, I'm trying to give an example of how you can make decisions in the heat of the moment which will affect your whole life, and it can cause you to unfortunately no longer be with us anymore, or be in a situation where you could be facing time in prison. And is it really worth it? You speak to some of these guys and these women, and they make these decisions, they're now in prison, and you say to them, like, I work for the criminal justice sector, and you say, how do you feel about it? And if they say it's stupid, like, what was I thinking? So if you can get the skill, which I feel like does come from self-love, if you can get the skill where you're able to say, do you know what, in this moment it's not good for me, yeah, and you can walk away, that could literally save your life. So I know it sounds extreme, and I'm taking it to the ultimate, but sometimes we need to look at it from that perspective to really deep it and understand that these decisions you're making in life are critical. So yeah, I just really want that to kind of resonate with you guys. I know I mentioned briefly before, there are influencing factors to why some people do respond in the way they respond. That could be past trauma, that could be mental health, that could be depression, that anxiety, whatever the situation may be. These things obviously do impact the way you'll respond and deal with a situation when it arises. But again, if you're mindful of that and you know that's something you need to work on, then this is the time to really put that effort in. Pride comes into play a lot of the time. Situations make you feel as though I'm only going to respond in a certain way because I don't want somebody to perceive me this way, or I've got this big point to prove. And pride's a killer. Like, pride is the worst. I think one of the worst emotions that you can have. As much as it's good, it's great to have pride, but sometimes it can kill you and really ruins it. Not kill you literally, but yeah, maybe kill you literally too, but it can really ruin situations. Like, I know people, like, again, having worked in the prison service, I know people that be like, I don't want to respond in this way, and I'd rather do this, but you know what, I don't want that person to look at me like I'm stupid, or I don't want that person to take advantage of me, I don't want that person to use that as a weakness, and that then results in the decisions they then make moving forward. So yeah, it's one of those things, if you're going to sit down and really think about it, then it's only going to work in your favour. And I know I touched on the whole masking piece very, very, very briefly, but not only when I say self-love and self-reflection and stuff like that, and really learning about you, You know what I mean? What's your triggers and things like that. Also, once you do learn those things, trying to face them sort of head on, opposed to trying to mask those emotions and mask those feelings. And sometimes these emotions and these feelings that you're going through may have been as a result of something you've been through in your past, and it's something that you just feel like, do you know what, I can't face, I don't want to face, and it's hard. And I get that, I appreciate that. And so many of us have been through some horrible things where it's just easier to look away than actually face. But in the long run, it's not going to help you. Make use of the support systems that are available now. Make use of the platforms. We're in 2020 now, where there's a lot less of a stigma around situations. So I'm going to use mental health as an example, because I think that is like a consequence of a lot of masked issues, you know, and that can come from drugs, all that sort of stuff. But mental health is a lot less of a stigma. I feel like people nowadays feel a lot more comfortable, you know, speaking about their poor mental health than they did maybe 10 to 15 years ago. So use the platforms and the support systems that you have available to you to try and work on it. And not going to go into a situation and change it and make it 100% better. But if you're actually making those positive steps, you're going to make at least small changes to how you deal with things and how you respond. If you try and mask it, it's not doing nothing. It's only temporarily helping you as a person. See people masking things through drugs, right? Which then ultimately leads to mental health in the long run, poor mental health in the long run. You see people masking things through association. So people that can't be on their own, and whether they rely on a system of friends or rely on a relationship that feel quote unquote normal. You see people masking it through sex, so abusing sex. So addiction generally, you see people creating addictions through things as a mechanism to over any sort of thing they're going through. And then in that moment of time, it may feel great, like, yeah, I feel good, but in the long run, what then happens? What's then the consequence of that? We've seen it. It's been quite dominant within social media, on the news and all that sort of stuff. You've got people now that are, you know, struggling quite extensively with their mental health issues. You've got domestic violence, you know what I mean, it's hit its peak. Do you think those issues have just crept up now because we're in isolation? Not at all. These situations and these issues were always there, but we had the ability to mask them. So domestic violence, you know that half of these women that experience domestic violence or going through some kind of situation which involves domestic violence have already seen the red flags, the telltale signs, probably already been hit or beaten by their partner or whatever the situation is. They probably experienced that way before self-isolation. But what happened? We had the ability to mask things through work, okay, through holidays, restaurants, and these little things that you can use to mask and disguise some of the issues that you face in a relationship. But now you're in the house, you're on your own with your partner, all you've really got is both of you, and you can't mask it no more. Spend, you know, probably the best part of their day, the best part of their life away from their significant others. So when it actually comes to being together, that they realise that it doesn't work, and all these problems which were once there then resurface, which then results in domestic violence. Likewise, mental health was already there, but what happened? People were able to mask it through work, through holidays, through going out, through whatever you can do in that world out there when things up and quote unquote running normally. All those things that you can do, people were doing. Now you can't do them, people unfortunately can't do. So it's just creeping to the surface. So you're kind of, you're just masking it. You're not facing it. And I know I don't want to sound like I'm saying face your problems, but you do really need to face your problems. We all do. There's things that I need to work on. There's things that I need to really face up to and acknowledge. When I was, just to give you a bit of background around my self-love journey, but you know, when I was a lot younger, if you knew me, I was very quiet, very reserved. Put me in a room with a group of people and I'd literally be a little quiet kid in the corner. My self-esteem was at an all-time low. If I had like a self-love, self-esteem sort of scale, I'd probably put myself, say for instance 0 was no self-love and 10 was love yourself, right? At that point in my life, around about 13, 14, I'd put myself probably around, I'd probably say around 2. I'm now at a point where I think I'm reaching at least the 6, 7 point, so not great, but I'm getting there, guys, work in progress. But that's where I was, and that's where I've come. And when I was growing up, I was, again, people that know me quite well will know that I was very close to my older sister. sister, she was a very strong character, and that's amazing. Like, she had a lot of confidence, but I feel as though because of my insecurity, my decisions, my actions and stuff like that were dictated by her and how she thought, and I didn't really have my own individuality. It was kind of like I was just known through my sister. It was just like so-and-so sister, opposed to it being me. And I feel as though I got so consumed with everybody else around me and didn't actually really start to work out about me and who I was and what I enjoyed and my opinion on things. And because I wasn't expressive, because I was so shy, I just didn't have the confidence to articulate that. And it went on for a long time, a very, very long time, until I got to a point where I realised, similar to the situation I spoke about probably about 10 minutes ago, I started to realise some of the decisions that I made, which were based purely around my sister, and she was just living her life. And I think it was my insecurity that made that situation toxic. But basically, the company that I was keeping and the decisions I was making based on that company then began to have an impact on my life 5-10 years down the line. And I will be honest, it's still impacting my life to this day. And that's the point where I realised, like, wow, something that was considered like so trivial at that time is now affecting me. Like, something needs to change. It then progressed, and I got into relationships, obviously boys come into the equation, all that sort of stuff, and then you're like, okay. Then I started realising how I respond to situations in relationships. So I was like, why am I taking on this role in relationships? I took on a little bit of a pick-me. I don't know if you guys have heard the expression. I think it's a bit of a US expression, if I'm honest. I don't know if it's really used in the UK, but I listen to all these like relationship coaches and these videos online. But pick me is basically like, pick me, like, oh, you're so great. Like, putting people on a pedestal and kind of putting me on the back foot to a degree. Not to a degree, I was putting myself on the back foot and putting people on the pedestal. And it was kind of like, oh, please pick me, please pick me. And I started to realise that why am I having similar sort of experiences in my dating life? Why am I attracting similar kind of people, similar kind of toxic traits in people? There's only so much you can blame the other person, right? You have to get to a point where you're like, do you know what, that's me. And it was my own insecurity, and it was my lack of self-love that then made me to adopt that kind of position. And you can adopt that position in every aspect of life if you're not careful. You can adopt that position in your working life. You can adopt that position when you're trying to get a promotion or you want a pay rise. If you don't have self-love and you haven't got a standard that you're working to, you might end up going into a situation, you might have all the skills and experience that you need and valued in your role, but because you've got no self-love, you then settle and accept things that you shouldn't really be settling and accepting. Whereas if you adopt a position of self-love and listen, I've got a lot to offer, I've got X, Y and Z, and don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that you can go into a situation and basically bring nothing to the table but still expect and demand anything from anyone, because it's not going to work. But if you know that you're bringing stuff to the table and you feel as though you're not fulfilled, then why are you sitting there and allowing that? And why are you not putting yourself in a situation where you're saying, listen, this is what I want, this is the standard I'm looking to upkeep, and if you can't meet that standard, then I'm sorry, we can't, me and you can't gel, whether that's employer, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a friendship, whatever the scenario, you know. And I feel as though, again, it stems from the concept of self-love. How much do you love yourself? How much do you believe in yourself? How much do you know that you're worth and that you can provide? And if you know that you've got it, and you know you've worked on various different aspects of you, and you can ask and demand for more, then do it. Whether it's a pay rise, whether it's how you expect to be treated in a relationship. Some people get so complacent. I've been there. You kind of just think, oh, well, will I be able to get any better? No. If you know that you've done enough, if you've worked on your areas that you need to work on. I follow a relationship coach. He's not just a relationship coach, he's a life, business, health, relationship coach. His name's Tony Gaskin. Please go and check him out. He's amazing. He's actually changed my life. But I follow him, and he has introduced me to this, such an amazing concept. It's basically referring to building up different areas. It speaks about your body, your brain and your brand. That relates a lot to self-love. So your body, so how much you look after yourself, what kind of things are you putting into your body, are you working out, are you getting your body to the best point that it can possibly be, yeah? Or are you ruining your body with whether that's drugs, alcohol, sex, toxic friendship, negative energy? What are you doing to your body, right? Your brand. So he sort of focuses that a lot around your career, what you're actually working to achieve across aspect wise. And then brain, so what's going on up there? So this relates to digging deep into you and understanding you, understanding people, and it can span across various different areas, and we can sit here and we can talk about, well, I could go on for hours. But brain and how you perceive things, it goes beyond just self-love. I feel like self-love is the foundation to it all. But anyway, he speaks about these areas. If you're pumping up these areas, do you know what, I'm like 7 here, I'm 8 there, 10 there, you're laughing. Even if you can say, do you know what, I'm probably like 5, 6 there, 9 here, and 4 there, but I need to do this in this section, this in this section, this in this section to ensure that I can pump those sections up. If you know that you're working on it and you've got something to bring to the table, you have got no reason why you can't go into a situation, as mentioned, relationships, work, friendships, and demand and set a standard. You should set a standard regardless of where you are position wise, but if you're bringing things to the table, you need to feel even more confident. Like, don't operate off of insecurity. I've been there, guys. I told you I was insecure. I never had any self-esteem. Like, stop operating from that level of, oh, I just want that person to reposition yourself like these organisations do. Audi and Lidl, for instance. Well, Lidl's a little bit still the same, but look at Audi. When I was growing up, Audi were positioned as really low quality, really like crap, like feel embarrassed to even shop at Audi. I know it's pathetic, but obviously you're younger. That's where they positioned themselves for years and years ago, but they repositioned themselves, they rebranded, and they're saying, no, this is now what we've got. Yeah, you can do that regardless of what your past or regardless of what you've done or decisions that you've made. Don't let that dictate how you now need to live your life. Don't say, oh well, I've done this, I've done that, and this happened. Meet some of the guys in prison and they're like, oh yeah, but I've got a criminal record. Do not allow that to determine how you live your life. Allow that to make you who you are. I feel like a bit of a motivational speaker. Allow that to make you who you are. And yeah, and go and demand it, go and set a standard. Go into work, and if you know that you're doing more than what everybody else is doing, I know sometimes it's hard because you might see a particular person that is no way as grafting as you are. They're not doing anything remotely close to how you're working, but you still feel as though they're getting to where they need to be, and you're being dealt the bad hand. Don't get caught up in that. Don't focus on it, and just focus on what you need to do, and focus on your mentality and how you're positioning yourself. Because sometimes all it can fall down to, you could have all the skills, but just because you've not got the self-love and conviction in yourself, you ain't putting yourself out there. You're not putting yourself in a position where you can reap those rewards, because you ain't putting your name out there. Somebody's not just going to walk up to you and offer it to you on a plate. You have to go out there and do it, right? So just think about it. Think about what you're doing, and stop going into situations and devaluing who you are. Stop going into relationships and putting sex on the forefront of everything. Stop going into situationships and relying on a guy to basically look after you. Now, I'm all for, you find your husband and you work together and you build together and you contribute, whatever. Yeah, and he looks after you. Stop going into a situation expecting that from people, because you're not operating from a position of power. You're operating from a position of weakness, because you're allowing somebody to control one of the most important things in this world. I know some people are like, well, that's not important. Money is one of the most important things in this materialistic world that we're in. I'm not referring to, people who follow religion and stuff and God. That is important. But in terms of your, your day-to-day living, money is so important. It dictates, if you can eat. It dictates if you've got a roof over your head. We all know you're allowing somebody to basically control that. So how do you think that person's going to respond to that level of control? Do you think they're going to be a lovely person? No, unfortunately. No, they're not. They're going to use that to their advantage, and they're going to use that as a weakness, and they're going to manipulate and control you, and they're going to see you as replaceable, because they're going to see it as, I can replace you tomorrow because there's hundreds of girls that will just come in, and want me for my money. Whereas if you're going in from a position of power, pumped up your areas, credit again to Tony Gaskin, you pumped up your brain, your body, brand, you pumped them up, seeking that inner contentment. You could be exploring any kind of religion or spirituality. You're working on yourself, and you go into a position, you can say, listen, this is what I expect. If you ain't willing to come to the table with what I want, then I'm not going to have you around me. And sometimes it might mean that you lose people around you, and you might think, oh, is this standard that I'm setting impacting me? It's not going to work. It will. You'll just lose the wrong kind of people. You will lose the wrong people. You won't lose the right people, because those people that are supposed to be will be. Stop settling. We all need to stop settling. But I'm going to wrap it up. I wanted to put together some bullet points around maybe some things we can all work on and we can all focus on. I love little action points. I'm such a planner, guys. I'm the sort of person, I love my little bullet points, my plans, and moving forward, this is what we're going to do. It's a bit cheesy, but I hope it works. So I've put together some of bullet points around what we can focus on. So perfectionism being one. Stop seeking perfection. I know it's hard, I do it, and I hate saying it because I feel like a hypocrite because I'm the worst for it. I'm the biggest perfectionist. Stop seeking it, we're never going to get it. We're human, we've got flaws. Yeah, Instagram might portray this perfect world. People are living with these perfect bodies and perfect faces with nothing on your face, no spots, not a pore in sight. It's these perfect lifestyles, it's all been photoshopped. You can photoshop your pictures, but unfortunately you can't photoshop your life. And it is unfair because you're making a very unfair comparison. You're comparing your interior and your exterior to somebody's best bits, right? You know nothing about their life. You're comparing everything about you to a specklet of somebody's photoshopped existence. Yeah, some people go and take a picture and a place looks amazing. They might not live there. They might not own that place. But straight away in your head, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And you're not actually thinking, hold on, that person could be renting that place and actually flat broke because they can't afford to maintain the rent. That person could have got a rental, do you know what I mean? Not put food in their cupboard because they're living in that moment. Stop comparing yourself, stop seeking perfection and just be content with you. And it's hard because I'm terrible for it. And it is hard, but we need to try and work on it. It's something that we can work on, acknowledge when you do it, when you fall into that little trap. And sometimes that might involve you getting off social media. Like I'm all for social media, this platform, social media. But sometimes it might involve you coming off social media for a bit, taking a bit of a break and kind of just concentrating on the real world rather than getting lost in that. Yeah, emotional intelligence as well. So emotional intelligence was another one. Working on your emotions, working how you respond to situations, and allowing that to help you understand people better. If you understand how you respond to situations and why you respond to situations the way you do, then allows you to understand how other people feel and why maybe certain people around you might make similar decisions or a particular decision, which then allows you to build better relationships, come across a lot more genuine and authentic because you think, this is a prime example, guys. There was a guy, I was in Tesco doing my food shop as I do every week, and then there was a guy at the checkout. Now you know what it's like in the supermarkets now, you've got the whole social distancing thing in place, so you can only go to certain checkouts at certain times. So I was told to go to a particular checkout by another member of staff. Then as I approached the checkout, there was a young guy, and he gave me the worst look you can ever imagine. Instinctively I thought, what is his problem? Like, do you know what I mean? What is your problem? I could feel it bubbling away, and I was ready to say something because his attitude, his aura stank. Then I sat back and I was like, right, similar to what I said to you guys, when you're feeling a certain way and your emotions are high, rather than reacting in the way that you feel like good at that time, sit back. What did I do? I sat back. I was like, hold on, this guy's working through this pandemic. I'm working from home. So life's kind of cushy for me at the minute. I'm taking my time doing my shopping. Do you know what I mean? Everything's good. This guy, I don't know how long he's been on shift for. Yeah, and I know some of you guys might say, oh, yeah, but you know, it's his job. Regardless, we all in jobs sometimes and we hate the job, right? And then, all right, I'm carrying on thinking, yeah, you know what, just leave him. Moving forward, and he's checking out my food, and then he's talking to another member of staff, and he mentioned that, you know what, can you close my till because I've got to break my fast. And I was like, oh. So not only is this guy probably been working all day and he's been hungry because he's fasting, but the time's coming where he's ready to eat, yeah? And he's seen my face and thought, oh, somebody else is getting in the way of my food and my clock out time. And I was like, that makes sense now. So rather than me taking it personally and assuming it's a personal attack on me, I was able to analyse my own emotions, relate that situation back to me and try and kind of emotionally empathise with that person, which then allowed me to respond in a certain way without responding by, I could have then responded in a way and said something to him that could have made his day a lot worse. I'm not saying go around and be nice to everybody because this world's not a nice place, but just think about things and try and work on your emotional intelligence and understand your emotions and your triggers and all that stuff, and it will eventually help you. And final bullet point, guys, think about something that can really keep you grounded, whether that's religion, whether that's spirituality, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's any kind of exercise, whether that's spending time with your family. Think about something that can really keep you grounded, and you know it's something you can go back to at times where, you know what, things are getting tough, this is hard for me, but rather than me going to mask something again, rather than me going to try and, you know what I mean, react in a certain way to basically make myself feel a little bit more whole at that point. Go back to that grounding and say, no, I'm just going to touch base here. I might go and see a family member, or I might go and meditate, or I might go and do some yoga, or I might go and pray, or whatever it is you can feel like, whatever you kind of feel like your coping mechanism, put it there and use it, because there's going to be times when you're going to need it and you're going to be on that verge of, ooh, but just use it. Okay? I hope that's like at least resonated with somebody. I really hope it has, guys. Please let me know your thoughts. If anyone does feel as though, you know what, I feel as though, yeah, it's made me think about something from like a different perspective, let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. Let me know. It would be great to hear you guys' thoughts and all that sort of stuff. So stay tuned. I'll keep you updated when episode 3 is out. Stay tuned for episode 3, where I will be talking on some very similar but different topics, and hopefully at that point having somebody else to come in and share their experience with you as well. But anyway, again, wherever you are in the world, be safe, take care, love yourself, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.